Start now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Intrepid Dawn. My name is Captain Katarn, and today we're going to be doing Edge of the Verse. This is our new community show that's going to be a weekly live stream for Star Citizen, and also potentially a podcast if you want to watch it like that. Today I'm joined by 4 other people from Praxis. One is a little late, so they'll come in later. We have Blackburn, Prosplat, Rishi, and Sunder. What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Howdy. Hello.
All right, so Rishi's late. You'll notice him when he comes in. He's the guy with the British accent. So Blackburn, introduction. My guys know me. I run this channel. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's up with you? How did you become involved with Star Citizen, etc.?
All right, so yeah, my name's Blackburn. I'm from the UK as well. Good old Rishi. I actually got into Star Citizen about 3.5 years ago, so quite a while ago. When it almost came out, the first couple of trailers with Chris Roberts superimposed over the front of them was it's kind of like reliving the dream of the childhood. You know what they promised. It looked very interesting. That's what hooked me in the first place.
Awesome, good to hear it. And how about you, Crow?
Oh, well, I got into Star Citizen as actually a coworker of mine was like, hey, have you checked out this game yet? And I was like, no, I have not. And I had no intention of ever getting into the game. And now I'm very heavily into it. It's very bad.
Totally get you there. How about you, Sunder?
I'm Sunder, and I am the devil's right hand of advocacy.
This is all a true statement. Absolutely. All right, so what brought you into Star Citizen? I assume that you were one of the early backers. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, from way back in the Kickstarter days.
Nice.
And I just had some expendable income and liked what he was pitching, so I said, "Here, take my money."
Very cool. And then for myself, guys, I got into Star Citizen about a year and a half ago or so, May of last year, 2 years ago. I don't know. It's been a while. Anyway, I had seen a video online on YouTube, and I thought, man, that looks awesome. And it was just a video of people failing. I mean, they were doing crazy, stupid things like flying into ships that were already spinning around and dying together and laughing and having a good time. And I thought to myself, man, this is something that I really want to be a part of. And over a year later, here we are. And I met these great guys, so Star Citizen can bring people together as well. All right, excellent. So now we know who's here. Let's get into the specifics of Star Citizen. We may have some viewers that maybe haven't followed the project. So, I don't know, we'll throw this out there, guys, whoever wants to answer this. If you were to explain Star Citizen to a new person, what would you say?
I think kind of touching on what I was saying before, it's that game you always wanted when you're a kid. You know, when you liked the Star Wars, you wished you lived in the universe, and there was a game that would do that for you. And just sort of supporting the game from the very get-go, that dream is slowly becoming very real. You know, he always says, Chris Roberts, about the fidelity and all that as well, and it is looking very detailed and pretty promising now.
Okay, so assume for a second that I've never heard of Star Citizen. What is it?
Oh, an open world, or I say open universe, not open world. Do anything you want simulation of what space would be like in the future. Really.
Yeah.
And any sort of roles, mercenary, trading, piracy, manufacturing, you name it.
So
you can do.
Do you have to be a pirate, or are there things to do maybe in this game for people that aren't interested in personal combat or PvP?
I am 100% not interested in combat at all. I don't plan on ever getting in a fight unless it's with you guys. But yeah, I'm more focused on the industry and actually medical gameplay.
Right, so that's pretty cool that we have that available to us as well. So Sunder, what is it that Star Citizen means to you? Like, if you were to explain to somebody what Star Citizen is, would you say it's a universe simulator or just the ability to be who you want to be in the future?
I would say it's an economical roller coaster of blood, sweat, tears, and caution.
That's actually pretty good. I can't really
All true statement right there.
fault that. Yeah, and I mean, there's no doubt that all of us have had a little bit of the Kool-Aid, and we're pretty invested in this. So we're not the most objective people necessarily, but I can tell you if I don't like a direction that they're going for sure. But so far, I haven't had that issue. So, all right. Also, there's a second part of Star Citizen. There's also Squadron 42. So, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Squadron 42, if you're joining us and you're not aware of it, it's a AAA single-player standalone game set in the Star Citizen universe. It has A-list actors like Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, some other ones. I need help with this. I don't know who else there is. I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah, Mark Strong, Gary Oldman, Sophie Wu. You might not know her very much.
No.
I mean, he was Luke Skywalker, is Luke Skywalker, but would you consider him an A-lister? I mean, he has yet to give me an autograph.
Yeah, I definitely. I think that what makes somebody an A-list actor, in my opinion, is if I'm able to recognize them. Would I recognize them on the street? Now, let's be honest, Mark was looking a little haggard there for a couple years because he was doing mostly voice work. So it didn't really necessarily matter. And when he had the homeless beard, I'm not sure that I would have known who he was, but now, sure. All right. So moving on, currently Star Citizen is about to release Alpha 3.0. And if you're not aware of this, what this is a major milestone for the game in terms of the feature set being released. When I first started backing Star Citizen, and Sunder's been here since the beginning, so he's seen the whole evolution of it. But essentially, they had a persistent universe, which was a test system. And you guys have seen me play this, maybe. And if you haven't, after the podcast, you might want to go back and watch some of the videos. It was pretty much like a place where you could run around almost in an MMO setting and go anywhere you wanted in a certain system. And there were missions for you. And it was cool. It was nice, but it wasn't a game yet. Certainly wouldn't say that. But 3.0 is going to add the ability for us to seamlessly transition from moons up into the planet atmosphere and to really explore and take quests and have trading. And there's a lot more gameplay there, which is kind of interesting, because I think we're getting to the point that that's really going to be the the defining feature of it. Until this point, I would say it's a tech demo. Does anyone agree with that?
Yeah, we're going to have more demo for our tech demo.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. So there will also be some Easter eggs to explore on the planet. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to with you guys is checking that out and seeing what we can find, because these planets are huge. I mean, they're calling them moons, but let's be honest, the whole game of Skyrim can fit in one of the craters on one of these moons. So that just gives you like maybe just a tiny bit of the scale of this. It's completely unprecedented. It's huge. So hopefully there's a lot of fun things to do, a lot of exploration. We can create some of our own fun as well.
Do you not have square kilometer sizes on you?
I don't. Do you?
Nope.
No. I want to say that Skyrim is like 20 kilometers by 20 kilometers or something. It's a pretty ridiculous map. To be honest, though, I mean, Star Wars Galaxies really puts them all to shame with 10 planets of 8K by 8K. That's just an insane area to play on. And still, I mean, like, even with Jump to Lightspeed, there's a lot of stuff that Star Citizen is doing now that Star Wars Galaxies did before, which is amazing to me.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars Galaxy. Absolutely love it. Favorite MMO to date.
Oh, me as well. Should have been there last night then.
Doesn't stop me from saying that most of that 8K by 8K is devoid of life and completely uninspired. So,
Well, speaking of... Go ahead.
having something the size of a moon be fully capable of me driving my rover around is only as good as I have something to do it in. You know, if there's nothing there, nobody's going to be interested in that.
It all depends on how many sick jumps are out there.
Well, well, that's the thing. Like, I had read the blog from the developer of Star Wars Galaxies, and it wasn't supposed to be empty. They were working on the system called procedural POIs. And basically what that would mean is if you're a player by yourself heading off into a direction and there were no other players around, they would spawn an interaction for you, and they called them a theater. So they would spawn you a personal theater that would interact with you in some way and have a story. So they had like 5 or 6 ready to go, but they had problems with the generation system. It would either not generate correctly or generate too early or too late. Sometimes right on top of the person, and they'd get stuck in a building, and that would be a problem. So they never got that fixed and ended up dropping it. But the cool point about that was that you could have, and he was talking about one of the ones that he put in personally, where, you know, an NPC spawns in front of you and starts calling your name and runs at you and says, "Here, take this. They're after me." And then some stormtroopers come in and shoot and kill the girl, and then they attack you, and you have to fight your way out of it, and you're left with this mysterious data disk which you don't know what to do with because you can't read it.
So basically, it's Will Smith in Star Citizen.
Kind of, yeah.
Enemy of the state style. Yeah,
I guess so. But I mean,
nonsense. You know, I'm surprised that failed them so miserably, seeing as how lesser games like Rift and Elder Scrolls Online and other games of that nature have that in-world random generated event that happens on the reg. Guild Wars 2 revolves all around that.
Right.
So these games can figure out their procedural events and whatnot. Although Guild Wars 2 is not so procedural as it is time-based.
Oh, he said they ended up giving up on the idea just because they didn't have development time to use on it.
Well, I'm glad they got that 600i out to me so fast.
Well, I'm not talking about Star Citizen. This was SWG.
Oh, okay.
This is back in original SWG. The reason I made this point was you were saying that was mostly empty, and that wasn't their intention. So they weren't able to do that. So I'm hoping that Star Citizen's able to do dynamic events like that as well. I think that would be pretty neat. Especially because chances are with the actual size of these planets, even if they get the netcode up to hundreds of people, you're not going to interact with other people that often unless you have a point of interest to go to. No. And I also want to thank Board Gamer here because I did grab his video to put up here for that and his footage.
Board Gamer, call me.
Yeah. All right.
All I'm saying is that the oceans are really big, and it's really hard to find someone in the ocean. Now, space in Star Citizen and planets in Star Citizen are bigger, and it's going to be really hard to find stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was the letter, well, it was about 6 months ago or something like that, from Chris Roberts. Just the moon, so never mind the planets. So big, it'll take 12.5 days of real time just to walk around it on foot. Make one equator run.
Well, it's official then. I'm creating an in-game religion and forcing a mecha on them so I can get a polished group of people to walk across the moon for their religious beliefs.
See, that's the thing about this. Like, the kind of universe this is will totally lend itself to that. Like, non-intended and fun gameplay. I'm one of those people...
I will fully support this cause.
Nothing but hard tech, saltwater, and weed. Go out into the desert.
Nice. Alright, so 3.0 is looking like it's about to drop. It's going to come down to, I guess, first wave. Go ahead.
Who lied to you?
Well, drop is in soon. We'll find out tomorrow. Every Thursday there's a show called Around the Verse, and we learn a little bit more about what's happening in the week. So it'll give us something to talk about for next week as well. But
I'll be really surprised if it comes out before Christmas. Really surprised. Happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that there's probably a push for them, especially during the anniversary sale, to try to get it out. I mean, you think of the major times that they sell ships, and you can sell ships that can land on planets. All of a sudden, it's the wallet's open, and funding pours in. So I think that they definitely are trying to do that. Whether or not it's ready is another thing, but the waiting doesn't bother me anymore. I have plenty of games to play. Go ahead.
You know it won't come out till they're ready for it to come out.
And that's one of the things that I like about this game. People complain all the time, like, it takes too long, it takes too long. And yet those same people are the ones that complain whenever their publisher rushed the game that they really cared about and it came out and it sucked. You know?
Star Trek Online.
Yeah, absolutely. Star Trek Online is, it's still a steaming pile of dog shit. And it's annoying. and I said that, I don't care.
I pre-ordered that game back in the day.
So did I.
I pre-ordered the Lifetime sub.
Oh,
Yeah.
I looked at the Lifetime sub and I was like, you know.
And I have the collector's edition somewhere. I have the box with the com badge, everything.
I still have. I'm looking at the com badge right now. I pulled the pins off of it and stuck it above my window in the gypsum board as a constant painful reminder of what could have been.
Yeah.
Still
So-
probably the most fun PvP I've ever had in a game.
Yeah, till they got rid of your ability to change the pigment of your laser. I don't know if you knew that, but way back in the day, you could put in a code, change the color. I had pink Klingon lasers like a mug. It was crazy.
Nice. All right, so to
Yeah, I
bring
believe
us-
I had a macro setup where you could alternate the colors every time you fired. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, really?
All right, well, the good news is, guys, whenever you're ready to, or whenever they're finally ready to go to 3.0, if you are not a subscriber of Star Citizen, a backer, or if you don't have a gaming PC, which I know a lot of my viewers may not have, you'll be able to watch everything right here on Intrepid Dawn. I'll have it out, and once that goes live, I would say at least a week or so every night we're going to be jumping in there and checking it out, so you guys can watch it with me. Let's move on to the next one. So Beyond 3.0. So we just had Citizencon, which is the annual celebration of Star Citizen. It's usually presentations, reveals, sometimes sales, and they kind of gave us a little more info. So going after 3.0 comes out, they're going to be moving to a quarterly patch system. Do you think that's a good idea, rather than trying to say, you know, we'll do this whenever? I kind of like the fact that they're just going to dump us whatever they have on a certain date. I think that's pretty cool. It's not like a deadline. It's like, if it's ready, here it comes. What do you think, Sunder? Chris, what? Blackburn?
I think most of the people that complain that it ain't ready are going to start complaining that what they're pushing out is screwing up the game and it's pissing them off. But, you know, it's the internet. People are going to complain. There's no accountability anymore.
Haters gonna hate.
Exactly. All right, well, hey, I'm just happy to have it in my hands, and I think that's kind of a good strategy as well, because I know there's a lot of things that they have right now that were ready for 3.0, but they had to nail down a 3.0 build, polish it, and get it out. So we're not seeing everything that is potentially ready to go to a wider release at this point, just because their current schedule is based on that.
3.0 is Delta Patcher too, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It is, yeah.
Thank God.
Well, I mean, you can imagine the first time, though, you're going to download the whole thing, because they've probably completely changed the file structure to be a part of.
Yeah, but I won't have to re-download the game every patch.
Yeah, I mean,
You're gonna
that's
have
a
to.
big deal.
You're gonna have to download the game to begin with. That's gonna be a nightmare of murderous intent.
Right.
Everybody's waiting for 3.0. 3.0 is ready. Get it here.
Oh my goodness, as soon
DDoS
as-
their fuck.
When I get that email that day at work, I'm going to get sick, and I'm going to go home. And I've already planned it. Like, okay.
So, across the entire world, all Star Citizen backers unanimously drop out of their work for the day. How much net loss do you think would occur? Quite a bit.
Yeah, considering that most of the people that back Star Citizen do so for a good bit of money, I would say they're fairly productive members of society. Yeah,
Right.
that could that could be a good bit. I mean, just
I mean, that's 1.5 million people all of a sudden deciding we're done with work today.
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, let's be honest. If I could make it my job to play Star Citizen as a streamer, I would do that in a heartbeat. So that's kind of like the long-term goal, but we'll see. I mean, like, I was talking to my dad about that. He's like, "Don't quit your day job." Like, I promise you, when I do, I'll be ready.
Typical
So-
dad quote.
Yeah.
To
But he's
fly internet spaceships.
he also doesn't understand anything that I do, which is, I guess, part of the, the age gap there too.
It makes
you-
sense.
You make videos on the internet. That's interesting. Okay. Can't talk about this. All right, so it looks like there's also going to be new professions and rules. So one of the cool things that came out in the last couple weeks was the shipyard. Have you guys been checking that out on the RSI site at all?
No.
Yeah, so it's
something like that.
yeah, so it's like a series of posts that detail professions and game mechanics a little bit and intended rules for ships. So, for a long time they would sell us a ship and they'd say something something dumb like it punches above its weight or whatever whenever they were talking about it, but you didn't really know what you were going to use it for. Maybe it was a fighter and that was kind of, intended that you were going to use it in combat, but they're fleshing out those professions a little bit more, and it's nice to see that. So it looks like there are 6 professions. Does somebody have the link up? Can you go through that real quick?
Yeah, it's so obviously combat being a big thing. Transport is also quite a big thing in the universe. There's a lot of different ships and things and classes of ships that'll be for that. Exploration, obviously another big one. Industrial, so underneath that, of course, you've got mining, salvage, science, and things like that. So there's all sorts of different types of industrial. Support, so medical bays, repair ships, refueling ships, all this sort of stuff as well. And then down to competition, so racing, sports ships and things like that as well.
That's kind of fun. Have you guys tried the racing at all? I'm terrible at it, but I have a good time with it.
No, actually.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'm terrible at racing. It's awful. I crash every time.
But I consistently beat Jorgi, so I have to say that like having him be my wingman is like the best thing ever, because I will never be worse than Jorgi. So there's like something to say to that. Alright, so moving on to the next one, let's see what we have here. Okay, so Citizencon recap. So they changed the format this year. If you're just new to Star Citizen overall, you're probably not familiar with it, but they moved to more of a actual convention format this year with panels and side events on the floor where you could play the game and mingle with the devs and things like that. Very cool. I'm super jealous. It was actually held in Frankfurt, Germany, and I don't think, maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, have they announced where next year's going to be yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
I would really, if it's in the States, I would really like to go. So that's something that I would actually save up for. Maybe we can take a trip down there. Something. A couple of people meet up. That'd be a lot of fun. Alright, so one of the biggest reveals for Citizencon, and we're going to get right into it, was the keynote speech. And the keynote speech was all about procedural cities. So I'm going to put up a video right now, and you guys can see that in the corner. This is going to be the procedural cities video that Chris Roberts showed off. Essentially, a traditional game is developed where you have a level. So when you look up at the sky is a skybox, and we're used to this. Like all the games have done this since the beginning of 3D games. So you look up and that star isn't actually there, and you can't actually go to it. It's just like it's just like a texture in the sky that glows, right? But Star Citizen is actually trying to be something different. Star Citizen wants you to be able to travel physically to every location that you can see. So a traditional city or something like that would have invisible walls would be kind of an immersion breaker there for what they're trying to achieve. In that realm, they've gone ahead and they've made what's called procedural cities, which is amazing tech. They can essentially generate an entire planet into a city, and if you watch the video here in the top right corner, you'll see that. Now guys, when you saw that, did that suddenly change your perception of what you'd be able to do in the game and what the team could accomplish, or what was going through your mind when you were watching that live?
I thought this looks like Minesweeper.
Yeah. You mean when he was showing the polls? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he also said Minesweeper, which probably made the connection for everybody. So it was kind of cool how they do it, but like the actual what can take place on that is just fantastic. Now they've said that they don't intend to fill every building on an entire city planet with rooms, and that's totally reasonable because that would be ridiculous. But the fact that they have an internal system that can also generate interiors in these buildings means that anytime that they need a new location, they'll be able to generate one for content. So the nice part about that is if you have maybe 1,000 people in the city taking missions at once, you're not going to all necessarily have to go to the same place. Everybody could potentially be sent to a different building. Like the tech would exist for something like that, which is pretty neat. Just to think about that from a gameplay mechanic. I don't know. I personally am hoping in the future I can actually have my own apartment in the city. Would that interest you guys?
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Apartment living is for chumps.
You want your own house?
build my own house on top of the mountain.
No, see, that's cool too, and that's something that I always thought that Star Wars Galaxies was one of those, you know, like personal house. How can I say this? They were one of the pioneers of that. But one thing that I thought they got wrong was that they should have had instanced housing inside NPC cities, because most of the player cities are out in the wild in the middle of nowhere. So that's cool. But like, what if I wanted to live in Coronet or, you know, Mos Eisley? That'd be awesome just to rent a room there, and I would have liked to see that happen. So I'm hoping that something like that can happen in Star Citizen, so that, you know, I can get the view that I want or something like that. Just really cool, because in my normal life, I would never want to live in like New York City, in the skyscrapers and stuff like that. That would annoy me. But when I play a virtual game, I like to expand outside of my comfort level. So for me, that's interesting. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, similar thing if you had, you know, like existing guild halls, I suppose you could say as well. If you could have a guild building, you know, that your corporation or something could rent, that'd be also cool. And then you could have your own landing pads for that hall, that building as well. You have all your guild ships there. It'd be pretty nice to have.
Yeah.
Or even like your own guild start tower kind of deal with the landing pad on top, and everybody lands a ship, and you got a cool office on the top.
I'd be fine with that, like a GTA 5 thing. You mean? Kind of deal, like how that works.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. I'm hoping that they're taking some ideas from some of these popular games. See, that's something that I wouldn't even have thought of, but I think that that would be pretty awesome. In fact, in the video here, he's going to fly over some circular places that I think would make excellent, or at least they look like they would make excellent, like big hangars that you can get multiple ships in down there. So that's something I hope that they're looking at in the future as well.
You know, they've got construction yards and whatnot, mobile construction yards now.
Oh yeah.
Why not give me the ability to make my own Avengers Tower?
Okay. Yeah. Now, I have to be honest, and this is probably going to piss some people off, but so what? I hate comic books. I have no idea what the Avengers Tower is, but I assume that has to do with Marvel or DC. Is that right?
It's a big fancy tower.
Okay.
Don't look too deep into it.
All right. We want big fancy towers. I'm into that.
Just know it's a multi-billion-dollar structure with a landing pad on top and a bar and pretty much anything you could possibly think of.
Well, I've heard that you guys are going to be into some businesses that are going to be pretty lucrative out in the verse once it's released here. So hopefully you'll be able to fund that type of activity for us to have a really nice tower.
Hey,
Because you don't like comic books, I'm not letting you in.
Oh. Can I stand outside and watch?
I'm a simple businessman. What would a businessman be without economic growth?
Right.
And comic books.
And you guys can see right here on the right now on the video that we're watching that he's flying through one of the procedural cities. In fact, let me go ahead and make that full size for a second.
Make it like GTA 5 where you look on the map and they have all the different places for sale. You could be flying through with your little Aurora right now and have an option selected on your Mobi glass to have everything on your HUD pop up in green that's for sale or rent.
Absolutely.
Go land on there with your own private landing bay and whatnot. Spend an astronomical amount of UE credits, get a penthouse, call some hookers, you know, have a good time.
I could totally see you spearheading that campaign. For sure. Yeah, but this is pretty neat. So one of the things they talked about in the video that we're looking at here is pretty much anything that you can see is actually there. So right now in the distance, they see another area. That's Area 17, and we came out of Area 18 in this video. And he's just going to fly over there, and it's there. And when he looks up, there's a space station, and it's there. There's no loading screens. I just cannot imagine. Like, even if there were loading screens, I would take that just to have this kind of fidelity. But the fact that we don't have to have them is just fantastic.
I want to know what's down there in that weird orange glowy part.
Yeah. Yeah, is it like a lava river or something?
I feel like that's like, you know, Fifth Element whenever he like dives down into the fog.
Right. Yeah.
Like some weird, really weird, like old school, old brick buildings and stuff down there.
Right. And speaking of the Fifth Element, I swear that the new Pioneer is modeled off of the Star Destroyer in the Fifth Element. It looks very similar. You know, the flat front and the bridge in the back. I don't know.
It came straight out of Homeworld, man.
Homeworld?
Yeah.
That's a game I
Yeah.
have not played that I want to play.
You have to play. No, it's not a want.
Yeah. 3D positional space. Most games don't give you that, so that's kind of interesting. We'll see.
They got a really good Star Trek and Star Wars mod for that one too.
Well, then you're definitely speaking my language. Speaking of that, on Friday, we're going to do a Stellaris multiplayer for anybody that's watching and interested, and you guys are all invited to play. I would either do Star Wars or Star Trek, whichever one you prefer. You do play. I get some people in there. Have like a big multi-week multiplayer battle. Don't have to tell me now. Be good. Alright. So the other thing that I think that the keynote speech really showed me is up until this point, you know, they were talking about building a virtual world and building a virtual world, and we have 2.6.3 that we've been playing, and it kind of feels like it, but you know, you can't land on the planets and you can't do all of that. And even if I could, and I can only go to like one little city somewhere, like would that feel real? And now that I'm seeing this, I totally feel like the immersion factor is 100% there. Now it's just a matter of making sure everything else works as well. Do you agree with that, or what's your take on that, guys? Do you think they can actually build? Can they pull off what they want to do at this point?
I feel like every Citizencon up to this point was basically them showing off a piece of the house. Like one year it was like, hey, check out these really cool kitchen countertops we got. Hey, check out these really cool bathroom fixtures we got. And then this year it was like, hey, we have all these building materials. We're getting ready to start building a house.
Yeah, I totally see that.
I think this was kind of the Citizencon where it all kind of, you saw everything and how it all comes together. And it actually looks a lot more like a reality than vaporware.
I agree with that. I think Sunder might have a different opinion. Go ahead. Don't
That's not to say that that's not to say that it's not or it's on the horizon and definitely immediately going to happen, but it is definitely a lot closer than it has been in years past.
Right.
They got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a long way to go. Go on,
Yeah. At the same time, I've always been. I wasn't really sure about how the exploration would exactly work in the game. You know, because I've always seen have a set map, you know, things like that. And I understand you would have been able to find different jump points and things like. But now it's becoming more and more real because they have procedural planets, now they have procedural cities. So if they really wanted to, they can just make the universe infinite. You know, they could just make it constantly procedural to the edge. That's where the exploration really comes into play.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of cool that they have the tech to actually put buildings in all of these, or put rooms in all these buildings that we see. I mean, I understand why they're not going to do it, but the fact that they could means that if they have planets that don't necessarily have cities that sprawl the whole city, but let's say just like a big city because it fits the lore of that planet, hopefully all of those buildings could potentially be explorable, and I think that would be cool. Just knowing, because like when I walk down the street, I know I'm never going to go into the apartment building I'm passing, but I know it exists, and I know that there's people there. And I think that that's part of, you know, the feeling of being alive. When we're in video games now, we look at stuff, we're like, oh, that's a cool model, and you keep walking. But you know it's not real. So add that next level, and it's just really changes it for me. But I think this is the first time I really looked at this and said, shit, they can actually do this. You know? And if the biggest problem is their netcode, or, you know, netcode issues, they've solved problems that I didn't even think that a game could solve, you know, at all. So I feel that that's like pretty low-hanging fruit comparison. All right, let's get on to the second part. Go ahead, unless anyone else has anything to say about the procedural tech.
All good vibes.
Good.
All right, excellent. So the next part about it that we saw was exploring new worlds was the theme of Citizencon. And they had a panel, a particularly good panel that I really wish that they had let them go over time with. But they had one on the new planetary tech and the biomes. And this isn't just, you know, like procedural cities. This is the actual planets that they're able to do and what they're able to populate them with. climate-wise, vegetation-wise, and things like that. And what really jumped out at me was the variation. And they were even saying, not necessarily in Citizencon this year, but I've seen in other ATVs how they're able to paint multiple biomes on a planet, which would be like, seriously, like a science fiction first, right? Like all of Lucas's planets only have one season, whereas now we can have planets that have like ice caps and jungles in the center and temperate forest zones and deserts and stuff like that. That'd be kind of neat. Was there anything that particularly jumped out about that panel for you guys? Anything that you were like, wow, this is amazing, and I can't wait to see it?
I just can't wait for snow. That's all I want. Snow. To be able to fly down onto a planet and there be a full-blown blizzard. That would be awesome.
Too far away for you, actually. Microtech actually is a snow world, and it's in the Stanton system, so we should be seeing that. I would say probably June next year. Depends on when they do their quarterly releases, but I would think it'd probably be in the first, if not the second one, when they expand the planets. Yeah, that would be awesome. For me, it's definitely vegetation and jungles. I want to see forests, but how about you guys, Crow? Thunder?
Weather's good.
Weather? Yeah.
I'd like to see more weather. Weather's gonna be the immersion life. I wasn't impressed with their biomes and their flyover. Did not impress me in the least. Looks like a bunch of dead colors.
Right.
You gotta get down if you want immersion like that. I don't even know if they're gonna be able to pull that off. But you need life everywhere. You don't need to see deer every 5 feet or something like it, But ecology of a planet, man. I mean, where's the bugs? Where's the birds? Where's the ambient noise?
Right.
And it's still in pre-alpha, and they haven't implemented this, but they need to keep that in mind. So when it comes time to do something like that, it actually gets done. Otherwise, I mean, you go from a snowstorm to forest to a desert, but if you don't come across any type of life other than this pre-modeled tree, what's it to you? You know what I mean? It's dead.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely agree with that, because I want to see that. I think that, to me, is the most interesting. I would spend my time in this game, not necessarily in cities, although I think that is cool. I would spend my time in like forests and whatnot, because that's what I like. That's what I grew up in. That kind of foliage.
Definitely agree. And I think right now what we have is a bunch of dead, no ambient noise, nothing's really going on, which is a useful and important thing to have. It's not really significant if you don't ever have planets with life and what's going on, even if it's just wind and blowing everything around. That's part of it.
Yeah, so we talked about weather a second ago, and one of the other big reveals from Citizencon was that the was it My Weather? Is that what it's called? My Radar app, maybe.
Yeah, My Radar.
My Radar app has partnered with CIG to add the Star Citizen planets onto their app. So if you do have their app, which apparently like 10 million people or so before the presentation had it, you can actually check out what's going on the different moons that are going to be in 3.0. I think that's fantastic. And along with the Intel partnership, which we'll get to later, does that reassure you as a backer that the game is in the right place if companies are willing to publicly align themselves with CIG?
I think the most significant portion of that partnership is not My Radar partnering with CIG. It's that CIG now has all the weather data that My Radar has.
Okay, so you think...
It's the access to the data now, and they can use that to actually create weather systems on the planets in-game. Right. So that we actually have realistic weather that makes sense, and not just what some programmer thinks weather should be like.
That's kind of cool. I mean, I think there's probably always going to be limitations there in terms of what you're able to pull off in programming, but they can at least make it look real.
You know what else they need to do?
What's that?
When it comes down to finite detail, accumulation of product, both in big cities and out in the wilderness. Let's say Blackburn, he gets his wish and he gets to fly down to the planet and giant blizzard parked next to the Tauntaun Cave or whatever. Go
Okay.
hunt wampas for the summer, right?
Right.
Okay, so he's out there dicking around with a giant white teddy bear for like 4 hours and comes back to his ship. If his ship's sparkly clean, I'm not going to be happy, but if it's covered in snow, wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
When you walk around Arkport now, which is one of the little cities that you can walk around in Avlashaft, there's really nothing to do except sightsee there. Eventually, you go and you're going to have these people walking around, and not always the same people and whatnot. How about accumulation of garbage over time? Which, after a certain amount of time, based on the amount of people that come through, is the amount of garbage that you get, you'll spawn an event that has this freaking little machine drone come clean up the garbage.
Okay.
Just little details like that is what makes something come alive.
All right, and I could totally see them doing something like that because everything that they've done to this point, they've always said that there's like the right way to do it, that's doing more detail, or there's the quick way, and they've always tried to go towards that right way, so to speak. I think that's pretty exciting. So definitely, it's not out of the realm of possibility. All right. They also changed up the quick travel in the presentation. Do you guys like the new animation? Does it look cool to you with the colorful space? Also, they said that... What's that?
You asked me if I liked it. I hate it.
You hate it? Okay. So be it. Do you have a problem with them having 8 minutes to travel, potentially between systems, or does that make the trip, I don't know, have more meaning?
Love it.
So to speak. You love it?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's brilliant.
I think that's pretty cool too, because for me, I mean, if you can instantly snap your finger and go from planet to planet, the planets are actually not that big. The universe becomes smaller in a way. And
yeah, we've been screaming that at these kids since EverQuest, and they don't listen, so we've had instant travel for the longest freaking time now.
Yeah, guys, now in the video here, they cut out the section in between, so we just got right to the planet, but that took 8 minutes, and there was a presentation in between there, just in case you're, like, watching this and saying, what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, so basically what that means is you load up your big cargo ship, and you go take a cargo run. That's now, that's now European Truck Simulator, essentially. And you've got some real content to get there. Maybe you're going to be interdicted. Maybe you have to find another route through safe territory. Or if you're in a real hurry, let's say you only have an hour to play that night or whatever, you want to get something done. Maybe you're going to risk that, high sec route through there. Is that the right word? I've never played Eve.
Low sec.
Low sec?
Or null
Low
sec.
sec, yeah.
Okay, so maybe you're going to risk that that route that might be a little more dangerous just to try to get your cargo run done for the day so you can make that money. When there are trade-offs and rewards and things in gaming, I think that's when it's really exciting for me, at least.
They need to let you go all Han Solo during the whole thing, though.
Absolutely.
You're really going to have to implement being able to have some form of entertainment on your ship if it's large enough, or the ability to interact with other crew members, make trades, gamble, RP, ERP if you're into that, whatever the hell you need to do for the 8 or 15 minutes, but it needs to be relevant. If there's nothing relevant to do other than walk around your ship in a circle, that travel time is where people really start to complain.
Right.
I think it's where you're going to start seeing a lot of incentives to be multi-crew or go join up with other players and do things. Rather than just go run around in your Aurora, because that's going to be really aggravating to just be sitting there in that cockpit with nothing to do for 8 minutes at a stretch.
Yeah, but they did say as well that the big ships like the Idris will have those virtual cockpits where you can play Space Marine. What Space Marine was it called?
Star Marine?
Star Marine, that's the
Arena
one.
Commander.
Play, yeah, where you can play Star Marine whilst you're on the ship. So if you imagine that you're doing a jump, you go down to your little virtual cockpit and just play a quick round of Star Marine, then go back to piloting the ship. That's pretty cool.
I think it needs to be more on a more personal level, to be honest. I mean, if we're talking about making the best damn space sim ever,
Right.
then we need to talk about immersion, and we don't have the Matrix yet, so we can't just plug ourselves in. And like I said, it comes down to the fine details. I mean, does it have to be such a utopian universe where everything's clean and everything works? When you take a look at Han Solo getting on the Millennium Falcon for the first time, and Luke Skywalker says, "What a piece of junk," all you can say is, "Yeah, that is a piece of shit." You wonder how it's even going to get off the ground, right? And then any time that you see a shot on the Falcon, somebody's always doing something. Something's always breaking. Somebody's always messing with something. Even in Star Trek on the Enterprise, there's maintenance going on a regular basis, system checks and whatnot. You're traveling at quantum speed, which is barely quantifiable in my own brain. In such a small starship, you would think that it needs constant tuning.
Right.
Tune your ship while you're traveling.
Well, I think that was, I don't know if that's 100% in the design docs, but I think I remember seeing that they wanted to have that. The more you use your ship, the more it breaks down. The more you're going to be doing repairs and things like that. So that's pretty cool. And, I mean, we saw a version of that back in Star Wars Galaxies. I swear that game was like the forerunner to this entire endeavor.
So beyond its time. That's why it failed.
Goodness. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, and we did this last night. We were in a multiplayer ship. We were in your brother's Y8, and I was going around looking at all the components and telling them how if we were getting shot at, I could come back here and try to repair the reactor. Things that you'll be doing in Star Citizen. So it's pretty neat that you'll have that ability. But yeah, I definitely agree, and I think that it also reinforces that you're going to want to take those. It's going to give people that have things like the Genesis and the 890 jump, it's going to give them traffic, because if I have to get my character into something, and maybe let's say it's a 30-minute jump to another solar system that we're going to, I would much rather spend that 30 minutes with other people on a ship and in a place where I have activity and things I can do than, you know, by myself, maybe in my Aurora or something else, assuming that an Aurora can make jumps out of system. Now, whether go ahead.
Somebody told me that there was a legitimate Starliner job. So
there is. That's what that's going to bring with it.
People can rate you based on your performance.
That's awesome.
Allegedly.
So it's like
I'm just like,
future
wow.
Uber.
Yeah, Space Uber, man.
Space Uber. Yeah, we're gonna have fun.
He did not hand me my Saurian brandy in a pinky up fashion. I shall downvote you.
Exactly. Well,
all I'm saying is, having played Eve and having gone through trips on that game that are 20 to 30 minutes just to get somewhere, if I can get on a Starliner and say, hey, take me here, and then just AFK, that's great.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about getting killed, and if I do get killed, it's not my fault, and there's nothing I could have done to prevent that. Now, in Eve, if I went AFK and while I was traveling on that long trip, and I died, that was my fault, and I'm an idiot. I deserved every bit of that.
Right.
So it takes the onus off of me, and I can now go do that long trip, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
This is good for me.
Well, that's exciting. I think that just having a universe like this that's this size brings itself its own gameplay. I mean, now certainly they have to add things to it. We need professions, we need mining, we need reasons to fight over resources, reasons to want to take people's ships other than just being dicks, because that will always exist on the internet. You'll always have somebody that wants to mess with somebody else just because they can. But if you give them actual incentive, then that's even better, you know. And that spawns the other part of the gameplay. There's going to be private, what would you call them, Sunder? Private military companies that hire out their services to protect things.
That's called a mercenary.
Okay. We're also going to have mercenaries that are on, you know, the white hat side of the fence. So that's pretty exciting. Just to see like all of the different things that can come from that. Just because one person wants to take something that somebody else has in this game, and then all of a sudden you've created an industry there. That's pretty neat. Like, that kind of stuff really gets to me. Okay, so moving on to the big ship. There were two ships that were revealed at Citizencon. One of them is an exclusive, and we'll talk about that and we'll talk about that last. But the next one is the Consolidated Outlander Pioneer. So I'm going to play the preview video here for everybody because I think it's pretty damn good. So we'll just let that stand on its own, and we'll come right back as soon as that's done. So 1 second, guys. I think the video is like 4 minutes long.
Stars. They've become such a familiar backdrop of our day-to-day life that it's easy to forget what they mean. That one. That little dot right there. That's Bremen. And this one over here? That's Saul. Think about that. Just a handful of these dots represents the breadth of human expansion. Another handful, and you've got Banu, Jean, even Vandul systems. That's everything we've ever known. Every piece of art, every life, ever, right there. In 2 handfuls of dots. Now that means there's so much more to find. Behind every one of those points of light is a story waiting to be discovered. Now in our distant past, it was the province of governments to explore and understand space. The simple launch took resources and money beyond the capacity of even the largest companies. But then RSI introduced the Zeus, and suddenly regular people were able to explore our solar system, allowing an unprecedented amount of knowledge to be discovered. When Nick Croshaw discovered the first jump point, the modified scanner array that allowed him to search for jump points were far too expensive for the civilian market. But once that technology was refined and open to the public, what happened? That's right, an era of expansion that led us from this to this. And that's how it's always been. If you look at all the great eras of human history, whenever innovation has put technology in the hands of the people, it has heralded sweeping discoveries. Because power in the hands of many will always exceed the power of few. So while we can now discover new jump points and systems, there's still one hurdle that remains. That's what to do once you discover a new planet. Because right now, only the largest corporations can terraform and establish settlements. Easy. We haven't simplified terraforming yet. No, I'm here to announce something equally exciting. Albert Einstein, the man who redefined human understanding of the universe, he once said, "The person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever seen before." An insightful sentiment meant to inspire thinkers and creators to push the boundaries of their understanding. It was, after all, said 1,000 years ago, before humanity had left our homeworld. So clearly he was speaking metaphorically. Today, as I just showed you, the unknown is out there, waiting to be discovered. For those that are looking for those places that no one has seen before, they are faced with a daunting challenge. What do you do when you get there? Up until now, it's been the province of governments and corporations to pave the way for sustained habitation. The power has been in the hands of the few. What if I offered you the ability to build your own settlement? To bring civilization to the most untamed of frontiers? A colony ship in the truest sense of the word. And I'm not talking about just transporting people, no. I'm talking about an all-in-one solution designed to build modular structures based on your needs. Capable of building a farm or a habitat, a trading post or a mining operation. I mean, that'd be crazy, right? Allow me to introduce the Pioneer. With that, let the new age of colonization begin.
All right, so you guys just watched the Outlander, or Consolidated Outland Pioneer video that introduced it. Pretty cool. I mean, you can kind of see what they're going for. He's kind of a mix of, I'd say, Matthew McConaughey and Elon Musk. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, it also makes it's a huge step forward in the game too, because it confirms that we're gonna be able to make player cities and player buildings. And they had a panel after this where they talked about some of the gameplay mechanics of that ship. And let me put something up here for you guys while we're doing this.
I'm not sure if I'd call it a step though.
A step? No.
No.
All right, let's hear it. Sunder's a little more
I'd call it a
than most.
huge promise forward.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, they had said that they weren't sure they could even do this, but now that they have the outpost pretty much nailed down, the ability to allow us to make them was the next step, and they were able to get there. It's pretty cool, because if you remember, I don't know how much you watch ATV around the verse, any of you guys. They were talking about outposts for a long time, but only now in 3.0 are we kind of seeing them in there for the first time, and they've really ironed out some of the issues that they had with them. So that's kind of cool. And I know that you guys in particular have a lot of plans. Anything that you can share with our viewers with what you want to do? Crow, I think that you're pretty verbose when it comes to that stuff.
Redacted.
Okay. Crow.
All I'm gonna say is for operational security reasons, I will not share any specifics. But kind of leading up to Citizencon, they built this ship as the game changer, and I think a lot of people kind of focused on, oh, well, we can build bases now. That's why it's game changing. That's not why it's game changing at all. Why it's game changing is way back they talked about the economy of Star Citizen basically being based on production nodes. And when one production node says that it needs a given material, it creates a mission to bring materials from one production node to that production node. What they also said was that owning production nodes was going to be an org-sized endeavor, and it's going to take a lot of resources to get into. What the Pioneer does is actually makes production nodes on a smaller scale accessible to anyone who can build a base.
Right.
And that's what changes the game, because now it makes the org ownership of a production node not such a far-reaching, oh my gosh, this is going to take a huge org and it's going to take us months and months and months to do kind of thing.
The single entrepreneur has a foothold with enough drive and dedication to be on the main front of any large organization, whether they're organized or otherwise. And that's what the Pioneer does.
Well, this also brings me to another point too. These sold for a lot of money, so I don't want anyone to get the idea that Star Citizen is pay to win. It's not, kind of. It's definitely. I'm gonna qualify that because I think it needs to be said. It's not pay to win, but I will certainly, whoever spends the money now to fund the development will certainly have an advantage when the game starts, because they're gonna have their ships already. But if you just buy the, what is it, $45, $60 game package, whatever it is, the base game package, you can get all of these ships in the game. At some point, you can earn them, you can steal them. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that are banding together, and they're going to go and they're going to try to steal every ship that they want in the verse, because, Why would you even pay for it if maybe you could take it off of somebody's hands? You know, so there's
Star,
people that. Right, go ahead.
Star Citizen is without a shadow of a doubt pay to win in the beginning.
Right.
It's
Things
more like
can
pay to
level
be
off.
in the lead. It's not really
Yeah.
pay to win. Because,
There's
I mean, if you really win, there's no winning.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's pay to start out ahead of everybody else.
It could greatly increase your chances of rising to the top and maintaining a foothold there for as long as you're interested in maintaining that foothold, simply because you spent $10,000 on a game that isn't even out yet. It's pay to win. Don't sugarcoat that shit. But you've got to have the continued drive to stay on top, because those that don't sink money in will have the same opportunities afforded to them if they work for them. That's it.
But there's also a flip side to that. Let's say you put that obscene amount of money into the game, you can only fly one ship at a time yourself. So is it a waste in that sense? Like from a gameplay perspective, I'm assuming under the guise that everybody like myself that gives money to the game is because they understand and they want to help it be developed, not necessarily because of the ships, but that's kind of like a reward for doing so. You know, is it balanced out? Let's say that I have 15 ships, but I can really only fly one at a time, and if I have another one out and I give it to somebody, all of a sudden I've opened myself up to risk of being stolen, being lost, being crashed when it's not under my control. So I can definitely see that being a limiting factor when it comes to the really expensive ships.
It's only really dependent on your social construct. And I would say if you're a complete introvert and have no friends that you can rely on, you're probably not going to succeed in the game whether you spent $2 or $10,000.
See, and that's the other point too, because you're going to need a crew for it. And they've been speaking about having NPCs be possible to rent out for your crew, but a human crew will always beat an NPC crew. So even though it's, quote, pay to win to get the ship, you're losing in the game for sure. You know? So, I mean, that's why I don't really think it's pay to win. It's pay to win if you have to have that flashy thing. Like, if you want to have the javelin, the idea of having is sexy. But if you want to be able to have a javelin that, you know, doesn't get stolen, doesn't get boarded, you know, actually is combat ready, you're going to need a whole bunch of friends. Or, you know, you're just not going to do as well by design. So because of that, I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm not at all upset that there's real money transactions at this point to fund the game, because that's what it's for. Does that make sense?
It's just one very radical instance, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, you spend an exuberant amount of money as a singular person for a javelin is kind of a waste for pay to win. Yes, but what about the individual that spends the money on all the biomes and everything for an endeavor? Purchases additional, you know, equipment and everything, gets money and whatnot ready and lined up, so when it's available, boom, he starts his crops, or boom, he starts his smuggling ring. While old Joe Bo back there that paid $45 for his Aurora and nothing else has got to struggle and play the game quite exclusively to just get to that point. Right? That individual that sunk the money in purchased an advantage. Pay to win. Hands down, dude. Hands down. That's just the way it is. But it's not everlasting pay to win. It's just pay to win in the beginning.
Yeah, right. I have to agree with that.
But it's also a skill game too. So you have to understand that I have a Saber, which is considered one of the best combat ships in the game. I have lost on multiple occasions to an RSI Aurora, which is a starting ship, because they were better at flying their ship than I was. Now, granted, this was at the beginning. So I bought the Saber with real money, but it did not give me an advantage in this instance because skill was able to trump that. And that's kind of what I was getting to with the whole crew thing. You know, like, it's not enough just to have a ship. You actually have to be good at this ship, because this game isn't like an MMO where you're just pressing 1, 2, 3, or, you know, whatever to fire off abilities.
Well, use the example that's really there. I mean, sure, you got to be good at plotting through space and getting from point A to point B with all your cargo if you're smuggling and not get caught.
Right.
That goes without saying. But the fact that you're able to do that on day 1 when I can't do that till day 60 unless I sink as much money on it is freaking pay to win, Tim.
But it's not right. But it's not winning. I don't know. See, I find that to be. I don't know. I don't reconcile it in that manner because for me.
Let your viewers decide.
I mean, it is pay to win and it isn't pay to win at the same time. Like,
right.
if say me and Sunder are in the same industry, and we are both competing in, say, Sunder spends more money than I do, dumping into that industry. Yeah, Sunder's paying to win in that industry. But if me and Sunder are in totally different industries, maybe Sunder's wants to be a farmer and I want to be a combat pilot. Well, then there's really no competition. So it doesn't matter how much money either of us puts in. Neither one of us is winning at that point.
There you go.
Okay.
So it all depends on how you frame the conversation on whether it's pay to win or not. Just
right.
dumping money in isn't paying to win so much as it's paying to beat other players in my industry, or paying to have an advantage over other players who spend less money in my given field.
For a small time. Right.
Yeah,
time is the factor. In any online game, any MMO, if you drew a graph that had power level versus time, you're going to get to a point where they're going to be pretty equal. Because
I mean, you're going to have outlier conditions where, you know, somebody's in an Aurora and they're flying along and all of a sudden they stumble on, say, a jump point no one's ever found before, and it's apparent it turns out to be a super duper valuable jump point. Well, guess what? They just spent $40 and now they have more money in game than anyone else.
I guess
like that kind of stuff will happen.
Yeah, but I think that there's a huge negative associated with pay to win, and in this instance I don't see it as being a negative, so I hate to use that term because people automatically assume that means that the game's rigged or it's crap or whatever. And in this game I think that there is actually, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be very proud of themselves working up from a starting ship to having a fully working, you know, industrial complex or something like that. That itself is a game. And in a lot of ways, since I have a pioneer, and I don't want to go out and say who else does unless they self-identify, but, you know, like, since I have a lot of the mining ships and I have a lot of the industry ships, and, you know, I'm going to have the starfighter that I want whenever the game starts. In a lot of ways, that part of the game is not going to be there for me. There's a progression part, and there's a lot of people that really like progressions. It's why, you know, it's why there's a hardcore raid community in a lot of the MMOs, because they do the progression raids. They go up through it. I have to beat the hardest content. Okay, I did this. Now what's next? And in a lot of ways, starting from the bottom and working your way up, whether it's life or in a game, can be incredibly rewarding. So that's an experience that's not going to be available to me.
I was that guy whenever I got in, and I got an Aurora package with Squadron 42 and the game.
Right.
At this point in my Star Citizen career, the smallest ship I have based on mass is a Caterpillar.
Okay. And I was the same way. I started off with a, or what is it? I consolidated Outland Mustang. It's the sleek-looking starter ship. I had one of those. Said, this is okay. Let me try something else. Just traded it for an Aurora, then a Gladius, then a Saber. And then my adventure just kept going. And then I found that I was able to get other ships, and I liked it. And I liked what they were doing with the game. So I have to say, personally, I have to say thank you to people like Sunder that were here at the beginning, that funded that. Because I only got in once I actually saw that they were able to create this and things were happening.
Yeah.
You know, back in 2012, those people that were the early backers, they made all of this possible. Because without them saying, yeah, I want to fund the dream, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do it at all, I may end up with nothing, kind of thing. Like, I wouldn't be here. So that's really something that I think that gets missed a lot. Like, if you're looking at the game now and you're like, okay, I'm close to getting in, I would tell you, unless you really want to support the game, buy a starter package. You know, there's no reason to spend any more money on the game than a normal AAA title, unless you want to support the game. We have these ships just because we all have our different reasons, and some of us are little more eccentric than others, but it's a good time now to get in. I know that they're actually going to be raising the price for the game soon, so you
I
should
have
check out the
expendable
sales.
income, and I don't feel like giving it away to other people besides Chris Roberts. There's my reason.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty neat what's been able to happen. So that's almost everything. There's one last thing. There was a Saber Raven, which is a really cool looking ship. You can see it at the beginning of this video. In fact, here I'm gonna restart this again. You can see the proc cities up there, in the corner. I'm gonna restart this. Right there is the Saber Raven, inside of there. Very sleek, very cool ship. Has some EMP drives, which would help you disabling other ships potentially. A lot of gameplay mechanics there, but it's also stuck with the Intel Optane new SSDs. Guys, what do you think about them doing that type of cross promotion where you can only have something in Star Citizen if you bought something outside of it through Intel?
I'm fairly confident that there will be an in-game version that's nearly identical to the ship. I mean, we've seen it before with the Mustang. There was the AMD version that had the special skin, and then they came out with the in-game version.
Okay.
So really, it's going to be a non-issue.
But if that doesn't happen because Intel wants exclusiveness for their promotion, does that bother you?
And that completely debases everything that CIG has said about everything will be obtainable in-game.
Right.
Right. So I hope so too, because personally I like that ship. I'm not in the market for an SSD right now. Plus the storage per dollar on that is pretty ridiculous. So I don't think I could look at that anytime soon as being something that I'd want to do. But maybe in the future if the price is competitive. But I think it was only a limited sale. I think that they were only available on a couple thousand SSD, right?
Yeah, people were doing some shady shit too, like trying to get the SSD and then pull the Raven key code off and then return the SSD and get their money back.
Yeah, it was so bad. Apparently, the Intel or CIG released a statement that said if you return your drive, your chip will go away.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And then I read a lot of people on Reddit. They're like, "Haha, just try it. You don't even know." It's like, dude, every serial number is tracked in the world. Those bar scanners, those are identical, or those are individual codes that they're pulling off of there. They know.
I mean, we live in a world where whenever you go buy your latest console, your Xbox or whatever,
yeah,
they scan it, and then if you go try and return that thing 4 years later, they can tell you, and it doesn't matter if you go to the same retailer or a different retailer. Like, one of my friends bought an Xbox at, I think it was Radio Shack or something, and he tried to return it to Target. They said, "Oh no, this is not the one that you bought last week. This is the one that you bought in 2010 at Radio Shack in Wisconsin."
Wow.
Like, they know exactly where you bought it, when you bought it, and how you paid for it.
Exactly. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The world we live in.
I wasn't overly fond of the Raven, anyways.
Yeah, not the. You
I
didn't
thought
like
the model
it. Yeah. So was it a model thing or just what it was intended to do in the universe?
Both.
Both. Okay. I thought the
Yeah,
model was sexy as hell.
Well, I mean, seriously, take it. If you have an image of it, put it up.
All right.
The boosters in the front and the delta wing, or the double delta or triangle wing, or whatever you want to call it, that the turbines are connected to. If you literally detach both wings and flip them upside down so that the thrusters are on the back end, it's the Aegis Saber.
Which is a sexy ship as well. Maybe that's why I like it.
I don't deny that, but I feel like they got lazy with this one in the design scope. And then on top of that, more of a preference for me. I wasn't interested in a stealthy, ultra-fast, light recon fighter that, quoting Chris Roberts here, can punch above its weight class, end quote.
I want to say that that's probably not his quote, just for the record.
That is his quote. He literally... You listen to him during his interview or his speech with the Intel guy when he's describing the Raven.
He was making fun of it because everyone on Reddit bitches about that because they put that in every single QA.
Here, he said it.
Okay. All right.
He said it, no takebacks.
Right.
Light bomber, they've got it. The
Okay.
Eclipse, sexy machine.
Exactly.
The Saber, your standard stealth fighter, sexy. This time I was hoping for a heavy interdictor, not a light ultra fast, but a beefy monster with some interdiction caps.
Okay.
And I got the complete opposite, so I was bummed about that.
I will say I like the model a lot better than the regular Saber.
Yeah,
I actually like
Get outta
I
here.
like it a lot better than any model that they have with swept wings in this stinking game.
Yeah.
Every single model with swept wings reminds me of a T-Rex. They have
Yeah.
giant thrusters and little bitty, teeny tiny little wings.
I have the Saber.
It's disproportional, and it aggravates me.
But I wish it looked like that other Aegis bomber that just came out recently. It looks sexy as hell. Can't think of the name. You know
Well,
what I'm
if we
talking
could
about?
actually get some legitimate atmospheric flight elements put into the game that we can witness, I think those winglets would create some good stabilizers for atmospheric maneuverability, but we'll see if that even shows up. And
Right,
still feels like a ship's not actually moving yet.
Yeah, so that'll hopefully be 3.0 and beyond. All right, guys, so it looks like we've reached the end of our document here, so we have some time. I know that we have some people in the audience. If you have any questions for us, go ahead and put that in the chat now. We'll open this up to questions. Keep in mind, we're not developers, but we do spend a lot of time studying this game, following the game, playing the game, and I'd be happy to answer anything that you want. We'll check that out. And while we're waiting for that, also let us know in the comments, how did we do this week? This is the first time we've done an Edge of the Verse community show, live stream, podcast, whatever you want to call it. And I want your feedback. I hope you guys liked it. I realized that some of you thought, oh, I thought you were playing a game tonight. I'm thinking that in the future, when 3.0 drops and we have a real tangible game to play a little bit, we can do like an extended format of this where we have the first part where we talk to you guys and then we jump in the game and we play. So we get both of those together for you. Do you guys think that's a good deal, Sunder, Chris Blackburn? That's something you'd be interested in?
I think we need to live stream us in the cantina.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Okay, so we could even potentially use the faceware. Okay, that's another thing I didn't talk about. So there's a feature in the game that will come out that's allows you to map your own face using a webcam, and then your character in the game will respond and move in real time. It's amazing. They call it face over IP. Are any of you guys planning on using that?
Well,
absolutely.
we'll see how it is.
Definitely gonna try that.
I mean, I'll use it if it works well, but if it doesn't, I'm not all worked up about it. It's cool, but it's not like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Future creep.
Right. It's definitely feature creep, but it's also something that differentiates this game from other things, and it's those kind of little details like that, like being able to look down onto my arm and speak to Sunder and see his mouth move along with his comm, so it actually looks like his character is talking to me. That's amazing, and I mean move with his words, so it maps all of that. It's amazing.
I mean,
Yeah,
is it really
yeah.
feature creep though if a third-party developer already had the technology and all they did was integrate it?
Crowsplat, by the power of Grayskull, man. Come on. Feature creep.
Yeah.
It's heresy to the highest degree. Burn it with fire. Holy fire.
All right.
I think we may have to agree to disagree on that, Sunder.
So this week, got a lot of people watching, not a lot of questions coming in. Probably my fault for not engaging with the audience earlier. Sorry about that, guys. So Wednesday nights, we're going to make this show a regular thing. Our guest panel is going to rotate out based on who's available for the week. And so you'll get a couple different perspectives from different members of the org and, what we think about different things. So I hope that you guys liked it. Okay, here we go. Crow, just we'll put this one in. It came in from CS. Not going to say who that is. Sunder, balls, sacks, or balls and sacks? That's the question for you.
The question is balls and sacks or sacks and balls?
Or balls in sacks?
And that's a tough one. A true connoisseur of the sack understands the ball always comes first.
Okay. I think that's a good place to end. So I appreciate you guys watching. So for Blackburn, Crowsplat, Rishi, who's not here, and Sunder, My name is Captain Katarn. This is Intrepid Dawn, and we'll see you in the verse. Thanks for watching, guys.
Peace.